Here's a really quick way to paint the sky. I'm spending more time looking up, hoping for more cloud coverage, as Denver is almost too hot to paint outside. All you need for this technique is some decent watercolor paper. I prefer cold press because I like the texture. I'll work on watercolor paper, then cut it out and glue it into my journal because the journal doesn't have really great paper. You need a watercolor set. I like to work with a spray bottle. You'll see why. That's part of the technique. A couple of paint brushes. I like these water chamber brushes. And then if you want to add flourishes later, you might want a white gel pen and a black permanent marker. And you definitely need some rags and paper towels. I let my paper towels dry in between use so that I can just keep reusing them and save on the amount of paper I'm throwing away. To start, I give myself a frame just using my pen and quickly putting in my rectangle. And then I want to get the interior of that frame nice and wet with the spray bottle. Then I'm going to spray while that's soaking into the paper. I'm activating my colors, and in this case, the demo, I'm going to use Payne's Gray and purple. I create a puddle of the Payne's Gray in my watercolor mixing area, and I clean my brush a bit, and then I'm going to put some purple nearby, and it's okay if they mix together. And this technique is called wet on wet, and I'm just getting nice blooms of color on my wet surface and just filling it up randomly. And who doesn't love to just watch how the paint bleeds and blooms like that? I think that is just so much fun, and I never get tired of it. And what I want to make sure is that I have some areas that are darker than others. And I'm going to take my paper towel and I'm going to pull away the excess water. And then I'm taking a paper towel and I'm just going to pull away some cloud shapes. And I just want to leave these kind of random. And as I wait for the paint to soak in, I'll get a different effect as I pull the clouds away. So as I pull the paint away to create those cloud shapes. So this is a pulling away of the wet on wet surface. And it's fun to me because it's so random and lets you just kind of explore and go with the flow. Now I'm going to speed dry that with a hairdryer and come back in and define some edges. As you can see, the speed drying also pushed away some of the pigment, so it's gotten a lot lighter here. Well, this is now where the fun comes in. I can go back and pull some of my pigment and come along what I can now pick out as my more distinct cloud shapes. And I come around to kind of define those a little bit, and I can pull out that pigment and just let the water kind of blend that in a little bit. And I'll clean my brush a bit, and this is a bit hard down here, or hard edge, so I'll soften that. There we go. And then just kind of pull that edge down a little bit. I like working with purple and Payne's Gray for a moody kind of sky. You can certainly try this, and I'll show you examples of the blues. But it's really fun because this was totally random how these clouds just sort of appeared after I pulled some of the paint away. Now clouds have depth, and oops, I didn't want that green. Clouds have depth and are three-dimensional, and they have weight. So I want to be sure to get some of the shadows in here as well to show that that cloud has some three-dimensional quality. Maybe I'll just blend that out a little bit. And what I love about this process, like I said, is you can't really control it too much. And so you just kind of let it flow and add water where you want to soften things and blend them in. And just make sure that your clouds themselves have some shadow, which is easily created by using purples and grays. And the gray I'm getting by using Payne's Gray. So I defined my border, I added some blue, and if you have some areas that kind of bother you that maybe need a little pulling up, you can go back and add some water and pull up a little bit. Some of these pigments will actually move now off the paper. If there's any area that's a little too harsh for you, you can go back and add some water and pull. You can also take your very fine tip pen and maybe define a few more areas just to add some definition to the edge of the cloud. I would just do a little bit at a time. If you want to emphasize the puffiness of these clouds and the movement, I just put in little breadcrumbs of marks to just help define that. And I can also take my white gel pen, I always clear it off to the side, and I can come in and add a little white. Ooh, I really like that. Just to add additional value or contrast to the shadows. And I'm kind of just going around in big circles here just to bring the white back in. When that dries, it's not quite as harsh a white. I will take this away from this pad, cut it out, and add it to my book. And I might even go around with some tree shapes just to make it look like I'm really looking out the window. Have fun looking up.